You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. I don't know how long I sat in the truck before I worked up the nerve to turn off the engine. The quiet out there, in that patch of Kentucky countryside, was unnatural. The kind that makes you feel like even the birds don't want to interrupt what's coming next. My name's Derek. I'm 41, live in Lexington, and I've worked as a civil engineer for the last 16 years. The kind of guy who wears steel-toe boots, clips his nails once a week, and pays his taxes early. The kind of guy who's supposed to know what's what. But nothing prepared me for that night. Monica had told me she'd be attending some kind of late-night mindfulness and hormone wellness seminar. I didn't even know what that meant, but she rattled it off like it was something normal. "Don't wait up," she'd said over breakfast, smiling while putting almond milk in her coffee. I didn't wait up. I followed her. That silver Toyota Highlander, our car, was parked neatly beside an old wooden fence halfway hidden by an overgrown magnolia tree. The bed and breakfast itself sat back off the gravel drive, the porch light casting long yellow shadows. It was the kind of place you booked for anniversaries, not estrogen seminars. My hands shook as I reached into the center console and pulled out my phone. The screen glowed against my face as I hit Monica's contact. She answered on the second ring, chirpy like she was calling from a spa. "Hey babe, I'm just heading into the last part of the seminar. They're talking about hormonal burnout. Super interesting stuff." I watched her car as she talked. Not a flicker. No movement. Just the thick silence of a lie hanging in the air. I swallowed. "You sound energized." "Oh yeah," she said. "We just did a guided visualization. Everyone's in yoga pants and drinking herbal tea. It's a whole vibe." Right. Because guided meditation required an overnight bag and a suitcase that had been missing from our closet since this morning. I stared at the bumper sticker on her SUV. Good vibes only. Ironic, considering my pulse was spiking like I was about to walk into a battlefield. "Glad you're getting what you need," I said, my voice cracking halfway through. She didn't catch it. I'll be late, so don't wait up. Love you." She hung up before I could respond. I lowered the phone and just sat there, watching the soft amber glow from the upstairs window flicker like candlelight. There were two silhouettes up there. One of them was Monica. I gripped the steering wheel with both hands. My knuckles went pale. In the back of the truck bed was a worn-out Louisville Slugger. I'd left it there after last week's company softball practice. It wasn't a weapon. It was just a bat. But in that moment, it felt like the only thing in my life that still made sense. Solid, weighty, real. I didn't want to do anything crazy. I didn't want to be that guy. But I also couldn't unsee what I saw. I couldn't unknow what I knew. And that was the moment it all changed. I climbed out of the truck. Gravel crunched under my boots like dry bones. Somewhere in the dark, an owl let out a low, slow hoot, almost like a warning, and I walked forward, bat in hand, toward the truth. The front steps creaked under my boots, loud in the silence. I could hear something, muffled voices, soft music, then laughter, Heron and his, close, comfortable, intimate. I was standing just below the window now, and the curtain didn't do much to hide the outline of two people leaning close across the bed. Monica's legs were crossed, ankle swinging. I recognized her laugh before I recognized the blouse. Blue with little white flowers, the same one she wore when we had dinner at Malone's last March, our anniversary. 15 years. We'd toasted with bourbon. She'd leaned in close that night, touched my hand over the breadbasket, said, "I still feel lucky." Right? I stepped off the porch, circled around, found the narrow set of stairs that led to the upstairs units. My hand slid along the railing. I felt the grain of the old wood under my palm, the smoothness worn by years of other hands. I took the bat with me. Halfway up, I heard it again. His laugh. Deep, confident, smug. I didn't plan anything. I didn't rehearse a speech. I just kept climbing until I stood in front of the door with the chipped white paint and the gold-plated 3 hanging slightly crooked. I could smell something faint through the cracks, Monica's perfume. The kind I bought her last Christmas. Light, citrusy, expensive. And then, without knocking, I raised my hand to knock. But the door opened first. Monica froze, mid-laugh, hand on the knob, like she'd been about to step out. She was barefoot. Her hair was a little messy. The blouse hung loose over her jeans. "Oh my God," she said. Behind her, the man straightened. He was shirtless, tan, with a towel still around his neck. He looked young, maybe late 30s, lean, like a personal trainer or someone who worked at a startup and talked about disruption over cocktails. His face shifted when he saw me, like he thought I was housekeeping at first. Then he saw the bat. "Derek," Monica said quickly, stepping halfway into the hall. "What are you doing here?" I didn't say anything. I looked past her to the room, the unmade bed, the wine glasses on the nightstand, the overnight bag that looked a lot like hers. "You lied," I said, voice flat. "It's not what it looks like." "Don't insult both of us." The guy cleared his throat and stepped forward like he thought he should say something. "Hey man, I didn't know she was—" "Don't." He stopped. Monica wrapped her arms around herself like she just realized she wasn't wearing a bra. "Look," she said, "I didn't plan this to hurt you. It just happened. And if I'm being honest, you haven't exactly been easy to live with." I blinked. "Excuse me? You've been distant for a long time. Quiet, stuck in your routines, always tired. I needed something else." "Something else," I repeated, staring at the guy behind her. "Don't make this dramatic," she said, like I was the one who brought a lover to a secret motel. 15 years, I said. We shared a mortgage, a dog, a dead baby we don't talk about. And now you're in a motel in the woods with some guy who doesn't even have the decency to put a shirt on. She flinched. "You haven't been meeting my needs," she said finally. And that was the moment the illusion broke. The Monica I knew would have cried, apologized, begged. This woman just stood there, defensive and hollow. I tightened my grip on the bat, not to swing, just to feel something solid in my hand. "Then maybe I should stop meeting yours," I said. The guy stepped back. Monica said nothing, and I turned and walked away, down the stairs, back into the night. I didn't drive right away. I sat in the truck for what felt like hours, staring at the dashboard like it could explain what just happened. My heart had slowed down, but the numbness had set in, thick and heavy like a cold blanket. I had always thought that if Monica ever cheated, if that unthinkable thing ever happened, I'd feel fire, rage, something violent. Instead, I just felt empty. When I finally turned the key and the engine sputtered to life, the bat lay across the passenger seat, useless now. It hadn't been a weapon. It had been armor, just something to carry so I didn't feel like a fool walking in bare-handed. Now it was just a piece of wood with old sweat and dust clinging to it. I didn't look back at the inn. I didn't need to. She'd said I was predictable. She'd said I didn't meet her needs. And she didn't cry, didn't flinch, didn't ask me to stay. That was the part I couldn't shake. Monica had always been sharp, quick with words, hard to read, but impossible to ignore. But tonight she was something else, dismissive, almost smug, like she was stepping into a life she'd already planned without me, and I had just shown up a little late to the party. Back on the highway, the radio was still set to her favorite station. Some upbeat indie folk song about sunshine and honeybees filled the cab. I turned it off and drove in silence. When I pulled into our driveway, my driveway now, I sat with the truck idling for a long minute before killing the engine. The porch light Monica always left on for me was off. I stared at the house, our house, white siding, navy shutters, fake pumpkins still on the porch even though Halloween had been 2 weeks ago, everything exactly where we left it. And still, it didn't feel like mine anymore. I walked up to the front door. The key felt colder than usual. Inside, the quiet hit like a punch. No TV, no rustling in the kitchen. Just the hum of the fridge and the low ticking of the hallway clock. I passed by the photo shelf, Monica and I on the beach, Monica with her niece, us at a wedding, holding hands and smiling like we had a secret. I stopped, stared. Then I pulled one off the wall, then another, and another. By the time I was done, the hallway was bare. The frames sat in a heap on the floor, glass cracked on a few, smiling faces staring up like ghosts. I stood over them, breathing hard. It wasn't anger, it was relief. Like letting go of a rope you didn't realize was strangling you. My phone buzzed, a text. "Monica, I'll come by tomorrow to get a few things. Let's keep it civil." I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the front door and stepped outside. The sky was still and dark. The neighbor's porch light was on. And there, standing just outside her own door with a takeout bag in one hand and a tired look in her eyes, was Jenny. She saw me, paused, gave a hesitant wave. I nodded. She crossed the lawn, slowly, carefully. "You okay?" she asked. I looked at her for a long second. "No," I said, "but I will be." Jenny didn't press. She just stood there with that quiet, steady presence that made the silence feel less sharp. The porch light above us buzzed faintly as moths circled it, and for a second, we just stood in the dark like two people who'd both seen too much. "I was about to throw this in the fridge," she said, lifting the bag. "Ty, there's extra if you want it." I didn't answer right away. I just stared at her, at the tired circles under her eyes, the worn zip-up hoodie, the sneakers with frayed laces. She looked like someone who knew how it felt to be left. She must have taken my hesitation as a no. Or not. "It's okay." "No," I said quickly. "I mean, yeah, thank you." We sat in my kitchen. She unpacked the containers onto the table like it was nothing, like she hadn't just walked into a bombed-out emotional war zone. I hadn't turned on the overhead light, just the little one above the stove. The shadows made the kitchen look different, smaller, less familiar, like I didn't belong in it anymore. She handed me a carton and a fork, no questions asked, and for a few minutes we ate in silence. Then she said, "So, you want to tell me why your hallway looks like a photo massacre?" I huffed. Not quite a laugh, but close. "I'm taking her out of this house, one piece at a time." Jenny nodded like she understood more than I'd said. "That why you looked like a ghost when you answered the door?" "She's cheating," I said flatly. Jenny's mouth stopped moving, mid-bite. She set her fork down. "Damn." I nodded. "I followed her to a motel tonight. She said she was going to a seminar." She didn't gasp. She didn't make a shocked face. She just said, "You saw them? Her and him? And she admitted it?" "She blamed me for it." Jenny shook her head. "Figures." I stared at the countertop, the little chip in the laminate by the edge. Monica always said we'd replace it someday. "She said I was predictable," I muttered, "that I didn't meet her needs." Jenny's voice was soft but firm. "That's not on you." I looked at her. "I believed in her. For 15 years, you believed in a version of her," Jenny said. "She's the one who wrecked it." We finished eating. She stood and began gathering the empty cartons. I reached to help, but she waved me off. "You got other work to do," she said, nodding toward the living room. "If you're clearing her out of your life, you might want to start boxing up the stuff she left behind." So I did. I found an old cardboard box in the garage, started with the hallway closet, scarves she never wore, yoga mats, some dumb Himalayan salt lamp she claimed helped her sleep, then the bathroom, perfume bottles, hair products, her pink toothbrush, gone. It felt good, not happy, not victorious, but real. Like I was finally doing something that belonged to me again. When I came back into the kitchen, Jenny was wiping down the table. She glanced up. "You okay?" I nodded. "Getting there." She touched my hand, just for a second, light but steady. "You're not alone, you know." I didn't have the words to respond, but for the first time in days, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a clean slate. We sat at the kitchen table long after the food was gone. The dishes were still in the sink. I hadn't bothered to wipe down the counter or toss the takeout boxes. It didn't matter. Nothing felt urgent anymore, except the fact that someone was sitting across from me, listening, actually listening. Jenny wrapped her hands around a mug of tea I hadn't remembered offering. She didn't sip it, just held it, like the warmth was more important than the taste. "You don't have to talk more if you don't want to," she said gently. "I can just sit here and be quiet." "No," I said. "I think I need to say it out loud." She nodded and leaned back, waiting. So I told her everything. From the moment I saw Monica's car in the motel lot to the way she laughed inside that room like she didn't have a husband at home. I told her about the call, how Monica lied right to my face while I stared at her parked SUV. I told her about the man, the wine glasses, the goddamn blouse from our anniversary dinner. Jenny didn't interrupt. She didn't gasp or shake her head or say anything stupid like, "I'm sure she didn't mean it." She just watched me, her eyes soft, like she was letting me put the pieces down without picking them up for me. When I finally stopped, it felt like I'd exhaled something heavy that had been sitting on my chest for years. "She blamed me," I said, barely above a whisper. "Said I didn't meet her needs." "That's cruel," Jenny said simply. "And lazy." I looked up. "Blaming you is easier than admitting she wrecked something good," she went on. "That's not on you." I didn't respond. Just stared at my hands, the calluses, the little nick on my thumb that wouldn't heal because I kept bumping it on toolboxes and drawer handles. Jenny reached across the table and laid her fingers over mine. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. It wasn't flirtatious or forced. It was something better. Steady. "You're not crazy," she said. "You didn't deserve any of this." I felt my eyes burn. I looked away. She let me. Later that night, after she left, I went through the house room by room. I packed Monica's things into boxes. Every drawer she ever filled. Every shelf she ever claimed. The closet in the master bedroom looked half empty when I finished, but the air felt clearer. I stacked the boxes by the front door. And for the first time in a long time, the silence in the house didn't feel hollow. It felt like freedom. A week passed. In that time, I met with a lawyer, changed the locks, opened my own checking account, just in my name, and started rerouting the bills that used to come, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. The house was mine now. The marriage wasn't. I kept my head down, stuck to my work sites, came home at dusk, and got used to falling asleep in a bed that felt too wide. Jenny stopped by twice, once with chili, once with an extra rake when I was clearing leaves. We didn't talk much. She never asked for details, just showed up when it mattered. It was the quiet I needed, until Monica texted. "Monica, can we talk in person? Please." No emojis, no punctuation fluff. Just those 6 words. I didn't respond. So, she showed up. She waited until Sunday morning when I'd just finished mowing the backyard and was hauling the clippings to the bin by the fence. I heard the tires first, the familiar hum of that silver Highlander. I looked up, and there she was, standing on the sidewalk in a beige coat and oversized sunglasses like she'd just come from church. She didn't move until I set the rake down. "Derek," she said, "can I come in?" "No," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "We can talk out here." She frowned, like the driveway offended her. "I didn't come here to argue," she said. "I came because we've both had time to think." "I've had time," I said. "You had a motel." That hit her. I saw it. Just a little twitch around the mouth. "I made a mistake," she said softly. "But what we had, what we built together, doesn't deserve to be burned down over one moment of weakness." "One moment," I echoed. "How long was it going on?" She looked away. "I'm not here to fight. No, you're here to salvage something, but not because you love me, because I cut you off." That struck deeper. She crossed her arms, voice tightening. "We were disconnected long before that night, Derek. I didn't feel like your wife anymore. I felt like a roommate with a shared lawn." I nodded slowly. "So, instead of talking to me, you talked to him, in a hotel, in my shirt." "It was a mistake," she said again, too fast. "No," I said. "It was a decision." She went quiet. Then, with that same fake softness she always used when she wanted something, she said, "We can't stay angry forever. We have to be civil. You don't have to punish me like this." "I'm not angry," I said calmly. "Not anymore." She looked confused. That wasn't the reaction she expected. "I've already filed," I added. "The papers are drafted. I'll have them sent to wherever you're staying. I suggest you respond promptly." Her eyes widened, the mask slipping for just a second. "You already saw a lawyer?" "A week ago." She stepped back. "So that's it?" "That's it." She blinked fast, probably trying to muster up tears she didn't actually feel. "Wow." "No," I said. "Not wow, just done." I turned and picked up the rake again. She stood there for another beat, then walked slowly back to her car. The tires crunched over the gravel as she pulled away without another word. I didn't watch her go. I raked the last of the leaves into a pile, went inside, and locked the door. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and exhaled. That part of my life was over. Finally. It was a few days later when Jenny knocked. I was in the garage boxing up some of Monica's books, self-help guides, and decorative coffee table ones she never actually read. I had just started taping up a box labeled Office Hers when I heard the knock on the side door. She peeked in like she didn't want to intrude. "I figured you might want help," she said, "or company." I didn't answer right away. Just looked around at the half-finished stacks, the bits of string and broken picture frames, the random pens and candles and receipts from a marriage that wasn't coming back. "Yeah," I said finally. "Come on in." She wore jeans, a flannel shirt, and an old ball cap with the logo half faded. Not made up, no lipstick, just real. We worked side by side, sorting the mess into what Monica would probably call junk, but once insisted on keeping. A snow globe from Lake Tahoe, a curling iron she never used, a wedding photo buried between receipts in a drawer. I held it for a moment before tossing it face down into a box. Jenny said nothing, until she picked up a ridiculous champagne glass with Bridezilla written in pink glitter across the stem. "Oh, wow," she muttered, turning it in her hands. "This is something." I laughed, a short, tired sound. "She bought that during our engagement," I said, as a joke, or maybe not. We kept going. Every time I thought I'd gotten through the worst of it, another little memory would pop up. A scarf she wore on our first road trip. A list in her handwriting titled, "Things Derek Does That Drive Me Nuts." I paused at that one. Jenny looked over. "What's that?" I handed it to her. She scanned it. "Leaves cabinet doors open," she read. "Snores on his back. Never folds towels the right way." She lowered the paper. "Wow, monster stuff." I smiled despite myself. That list used to make me feel awful. She folded it in half, tore it clean down the middle, and dropped it in the trash. "Not worth keeping," she said. We shared takeout again when we were done. Sat on the garage steps, watching the sky turn from gold to soft blue. The house was quieter now, and not in a bad way. The kind of quiet that made room for something else. Jenny set down her drink and nudged my arm lightly with hers. "You're different this week," she said. "How so?" "Less hollow," she said. "More here." I didn't know what to say to that, but I let it land. When she stood to leave, she turned toward me at the door. "I'll come by tomorrow," she said. "We can tackle the kitchen." I nodded. "I'd like that." Before she left, she squeezed my hand, gently, intentionally, not as a promise of anything more, just that she wasn't going anywhere, and that somehow meant everything. It had been about a month since Monica left, and in that time, I'd started sleeping through the night again. I wasn't jumping at every text, wasn't flinching when the doorbell rang. The house had changed. Less clutter, fewer reminders, more air. I'd even painted the guest room a soft gray Jenny, picked out from a stack of paint chips she brought over one afternoon. Just for fun. She and I weren't anything official, not yet, but she was here most days, helping me rebuild in the small ways that mattered. We were planning a weekend trip to Red River Gorge, just a drive, some hiking, nothing serious, but it felt big, like I was ready for something again. Then Monica showed up. Not a text, not a warning, just a knock on the front door while Jenny and I were packing up snacks in the kitchen. I froze. Jenny peeked out the side window. Her face dropped. "It's her." I opened the door. Monica stood there in a tan trench coat and oversized sunglasses, like someone who hadn't realized the show was over and the cameras were off. Her hair was messy, but in that deliberate way. Her lips were trembling just enough to look rehearsed. "Derek," she said, voice soft. I didn't know who else to come to." "Then you're probably lost," I said. She blinked, as if she couldn't believe I hadn't crumbled the moment she appeared. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "A huge one. You were right. About everything." Jenny stood behind me, quiet but present. A reminder I didn't need saving anymore. Monica continued. "I thought I wanted something new, something exciting. But it wasn't real. It was a fantasy. And when it ended, I realized I threw away the one person who ever really loved me." I leaned against the doorframe. "And you're here because—" "I want another chance," she said, "to fix things. I've changed." "You haven't changed," I said calmly. "You've just run out of backup plans." Her face faltered. "I know it'll take time, but maybe we can start by talking. Alone." Her eyes flicked to Jenny, who hadn't moved. Monica's voice sharpened. "She's the one, isn't she? The neighbor? You replaced me with her?" I didn't answer. "You think this is real?" she said, her tone rising. "You think she understands you better than I did? She's just convenient." That's when Jenny stepped forward. "No," she said. "I'm not convenient. I'm present. There's a difference." Monica looked rattled. For once, her words didn't land. I turned to Jenny. "Can you give us a second?" She nodded, stepped back into the hallway, but not far. She knew I didn't want space, just closure. I looked back at Monica. I spent years trying to be the husband you wanted, I said. I thought love was about endurance, but what I've learned is it's also about choice. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. I'm not choosing you. Her jaw dropped slightly. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing honesty. I'm choosing myself. And with that, I closed the door. Not in anger, in finality. Jenny reappeared a moment later, quiet as always. She didn't ask what was said. She just stood beside me, and we finished packing for the weekend. 3 days later, I got a call from the county sheriff's office. "Mr. Keller," the voice said, "we need you to come down to the station. There's been a complaint filed against you." At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe a traffic thing, maybe something from a job site. But then he said it. "Your wife, Monica Keller, filed a report alleging verbal threats and intimidation." My stomach sank. "I'm sorry, what?" I asked, gripping the edge of my workbench. "She claims you showed up uninvited, made threatening statements, and created a hostile situation," he said. "We're just following up." I sat in the interview room an hour later, the AC humming overhead like a dentist's drill. The deputy across from me flipped through a clipboard. "She said you waved a baseball bat at her." I nearly laughed. "That's ridiculous. That bat's been in my truck for months. I never touched it." "She also claims you verbally threatened her on multiple occasions, including outside your home this past week." "She showed up uninvited," I said. "My neighbor was with me the entire time. We had a normal conversation. I asked her to leave." The deputy nodded. "Do you have any witnesses who can confirm your version?" "Yeah. Jenny Pierce. She was there the whole time." They took down Jenny's information, asked for any texts, emails, voicemails. I gave them everything. I even pulled up the lawyer's documents showing the divorce had already been filed, that Monica had been notified, that we hadn't had any direct contact until she came to my door. They let me go an hour later, after a few more questions and a lot of note-taking. Outside the station, I sat in my truck and just stared at the dash. So, this is how she played it. Not remorse, not maturity, not honesty. Just another angle, another way to get control. Jenny was waiting at my house when I got back. I didn't even have to say anything. One look at my face, and she knew. "She filed something, didn't she?" she asked quietly. "Claimed I threatened her," I said. "Said I waved a bat." Jenny's jaw clenched. "That's insane." I nodded slowly. "She's desperate. She doesn't care about the truth, just the story that benefits her." "You okay?" I leaned against the kitchen counter. "I'm not afraid, just tired." "She's not done until she burns it all down." Jenny crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me, solid and warm. No words, just presence. That night, I changed all the locks again, filed a statement with my attorney. Jenny stayed until late, just sitting with me as I flipped through old files and gathered anything that could be used as proof. The storm had passed, but this was the lightning after, a warning. She could still come back swinging, but this time, I wasn't standing there unarmed. It was raining when I pulled into Jenny's driveway. Not a downpour, just a soft, steady drizzle that made the pavement glisten under the porch light. I sat there for a second, watching the windshield wipers tick back and forth like a slow heartbeat. My shoulders ached, my chest felt tight. I wasn't scared, not anymore. But I was worn down. The kind of tired that doesn't come from work or lack of sleep, but from having to defend your name against someone who used to share your bed. The police hadn't charged me. They said her report was weak, mostly emotional claims without evidence. My lawyer assured me we were fine. Monica's move was more spite than strategy, a way to rattle me, to remind me she could still reach inside my life and twist the knife whenever she wanted. But she didn't win. She just reminded me why I left. Jenny opened the door before I could knock. Her sweatshirt sleeves were rolled up, and her hair was damp like she'd just finished a shower. She didn't smile, didn't need to. She stepped aside and let me in. I dropped my coat by the door, kicked off my boots, and stood there for a minute in the warmth of her kitchen. It smelled like garlic and sage. She handed me a towel and a glass of water. "You hungry?" "Not really." She nodded, like that made sense. "Want to sit?" So we did. Side by side on the old, creaky couch, facing the front window. The rain tapped softly against the glass. The TV was off. Her dog, an aging golden retriever named Max, snored at our feet. I stared into the gray light outside and felt something strange. Peace. Not the numb kind, not the fake, Smile through the teeth kind. The kind that comes when the war ends and you're still standing. Jenny reached over, rested her hand in mine. No pressure, no agenda, just contact. I'm proud of you, she said quietly. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I didn't think I'd get through this, I said. Not without breaking. She looked at me, serious but soft. You didn't break, you bent, and then you stood back up. I nodded slowly. She doesn't get to define me anymore. No, Jenny said. She doesn't. The room fell into a comfortable hush, just the rain and the breath between us. And I realized, for the first time in years, I wasn't surviving something. I was beginning something. Not with grand declarations or fireworks, just with a woman beside me, a quiet house, and the steady, certain truth that I'd made it to the other side. And I wasn't alone anymore.